It's Wednesday, March 26th.
I won the leadership fair and square.
The issue of foreign interference has emerged on the campaign trail, and Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is facing questions about his refusal to get security clearance.
We obviously are crushed by what's happened.
Tragedy on the slopes. The RCMP say a deadly avalanche in BC could have been even worse, if not for the quick thinking of a helicopter pilot who was able to warn skiers of what was coming.
We haven't had a measles outbreak like this in a very long time.
Mounting measles cases. Local health units in southwest Ontario are adjusting guidelines for the MMR vaccine as the province reaches 440 measles cases so far this year. Nearly all are linked to one event last fall in New Brunswick.
I could see that there was 3 people on top of the wing. It was really good to see.
And another pilot story. This pilot feared the worst when he had spotted a wreckage of a small plane that went down in an Alaskan lake. Turns out he found 3 survivors. Stay with us, Canada. Your morning starts right now. Good morning, Canada, and welcome to Your Morning. I'm Anne-Marie Mediwake.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Lindsey Deluce.
I'm Kelsey McEwen. Hope your day is off to a wonderful start.
All right, let's start with the campaign trail this morning. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre has found himself on the defensive over the issue of foreign interference.
So they'll bring me into a dark room and they'll say, we're going to give you a little bit of breadcrumbs of intel, and then we'll tell you you can't talk about any of this stuff anymore.
So CTV News has confirmed that India tried to interfere in the 2022 Conservative leadership race, which ended with Pierre Poilievre becoming party leader. Now, there's no indication the meddling affected the outcome, so keep that in mind. But CSIS didn't tell Pierre Poilievre about any of this because Poilievre refused to get clearance for security briefings. Other party leaders criticize his stance.
I find it downright irresponsible that the leader of the opposition, day after day, month after month, year after year, refuses to obtain his security clearance.
That, to me, disqualifies you as a prime minister candidate. It's not someone that we can trust to stand up to foreign interference.
Pierre Poilievre says he's not changing his mind about getting security clearance. The Liberal Sean Fraser has changed his mind, though, about leaving politics, deciding to run again in his Nova Scotia riding.
I have assurances and comfort that I'm going to be able to be closer to home than I was over the course of the past few years and still make a contribution to the country that we all love.
So you remember back in December, Sean Fraser resigned from cabinet, announced his decision to not seek re-election. He said to spend more time with his family. He served as housing minister and immigration minister during his time in cabinet. Transport Canada is freezing rebate payments for Teslas under its EV rebate program. This comes after reports the EV maker suspiciously filed for rebates. So here's what we know. CTV News has reported 4 Tesla locations in this country submitted paperwork for the sale of 8,600 cars over a 72-hour period in the final days of the rebate program in January. Those sales, everybody, amount to more than $40 million in claims. Tesla has also been blocked from future EV programs. Transport Minister Chrystia Freeland says that ban will remain, quote, so long as the illegitimate and illegal U.S. tariffs are imposed against Canada. Tesla CEO Elon Musk, as we know, is a close advisor to the White House. Canada is not included on the list of countries threatening the U.S. when it comes to the fentanyl crisis.
I was surprised, given some of the rhetoric, that there is no mention of Canada in the ATA.
Senator, the focus in my opening and the ATA was really to focus on the most extreme threats in that area.
This is the annual threat assessment put out by the intelligence agency in the U.S. U.S. Director of Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, says the most extreme threat related to fentanyl coming into the U.S. is from Mexico. She presented the report's findings to the Senate Intelligence Committee Tuesday. The annual threat assessment says Mexico-based crime organizations are the main source of drugs in the U.S., which include fentanyl, heroin, methamphetamine. U.S. President Donald Trump has claimed that the flow of illicit drugs coming through our border and into the U.S. is, quote, an unusual and extraordinary threat. He's been using this threat, as we know, to justify the punishing tariffs on Canadian goods. Some sad news this morning. Authorities in BC say a last-minute warning about a deadly avalanche likely prevented a far greater tragedy.
It's one of the first times I've seen that happen where someone was able to observe and then warn those on the ground. And I honestly, I think if that didn't happen, we would have been looking at an even more tragic event.
RCMP say 2 groups of skiers were waiting to be picked up by a helicopter. This is in the Purcell Mountains. The pilot, still in the air, noticed an avalanche barreling toward them, so sounded an alarm. One group managed to get out of the way in time, but 4 other people were caught up in the avalanche, killing 3 of those people. The victims are 44-year-old Jeff Keenan from Whistler, 45-year-old Alex Pashley from Idaho, as well as a local experienced guide who was 53 years old. The company, Stellar Heliskiing, says it's pausing future trips while police investigate. Nearly all of Ontario's 440 confirmed measles cases in 2025 have a common thread.
We really do see the overwhelming majority of cases of measles in unvaccinated individuals or in individuals that have received only 1, not 2 of the doses of vaccines.
So all but 7 of those 440 cases are being linked to a multi-jurisdictional outbreak, as they're calling it, that began at a large gathering of Mennonite communities in New Brunswick last fall. According to a memo from Ontario's Chief Medical Officer of Health, the outbreak is, quote, disproportionately affecting some Mennonite, Amish, and other Anabaptist communities due to a combination of under-immunization and exposure. Most of the cases are in Southwest Ontario, and now some local health units are encouraging parents to vaccinate their children with a first dose of MMR vaccine before they turn 1-year-old. This is an incredible story. A pilot and his 2 daughters are recovering after surviving on the wing of their plane as it was floating on a lake in southern Alaska. They were found by a pilot who was part of the search mission.
I looked down and I could see the ice over the lake that's up there at the moraine at the toe of the glacier. And I could see kind of a dark spot.
That was the spot he saw. This is the wreckage. The pilot and 2 children, they were on a sightseeing tour when their plane was reported missing Sunday night. The Coast Guard and Alaska National Guard then launched a search. Fellow pilots on Facebook also organized their own search. By the time these 3 were found, they had been on the plane's wing for 12 hours. Wow. They were taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Incredible. Scientists with the Smithsonian are pretty stumped by a fossil that a woman has brought to them. So Taylor Andrus found this fossil 3 years ago. There it is. She brought it to her local natural history museum, as well as the Smithsonian. Both have no clue what it is, besides the fact it's from some sort of plant. She says her next steps are taking it to some other nearby colleges with the hopes of at least getting it carbon dated, so we can get a time frame on this thing.